Hello, everybody, and good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar on budgeting for the holidays. My name is Vincent Delgado, and I'm the Education Outreach Manager with CESLOC. Before we dive into today's presentation, I did want to take care of a few housekeeping items. First and foremost, we are recording today's webinar. Happy to share that you'll be receiving a link to the recording from me via email shortly after today's webinar. So feel free to revisit the presentation if you need to jump off early, or share the recording link with friends, interested family members. But again, we frequently get that question throughout the presentation. And so to answer that question ahead of time, yes, we are recording today's webinar. We encourage questions throughout the presentation. There should be a Q&A box located somewhere on your device. For me, it's at the top of the screen. For you, it could be at the bottom, but regardless, feel free to use that Q&A box throughout the presentation. Don't hesitate to let me know also if maybe you're having some technical issues. Maybe the audio cuts out or whatnot, but feel free to utilize that option to communicate with me. We'll definitely have time during the presentation to answer questions, and we'll of course have time at the end to answer any questions that do come up as well too. Also, a little bit about CESLOC for those of you that are unfamiliar with who we are. We are the largest locally owned financial institution in San Luis Obispo. We've been around for over 80 years. We are a credit union, so our money is local, our members are local, and we are very happy to serve the Central Coast. We offer monthly financial education webinars. We will be skipping December. I feel like folks are going to be more focused maybe on wrapping up the year for work and just preparing for the holidays. So we will be skipping December. I'm sorry, did I say September? We're going to be skipping December. And we will restart back up in January. Feel free to share any topics that you want to see next year in the Q&A box. We are beginning to craft that schedule, and we want to make sure that we're discussing things that meet your needs and are addressing some of the things that you want to hear about as it relates to financial education. Nothing is off limits, so feel free to share some feedback if you'd like. As for today, we are going to be discussing, again, budgeting for the holidays. As cliche as it sounds, I don't want to say the holidays are around the corner because they're not. The holidays are here. As hard as it is to believe. Next week's Thanksgiving, and that kind of typically, at least for me, has always kind of kicked off the holiday spending season. So there's no better time to start kind of having these conversations around budgeting and surviving the holiday season. Some of the things that we're going to talk about, the first few slides, we are going to focus on, ways in which you can maybe budget a little bit better for the holidays, but we're also going to be addressing a few different, tips or tricks that can maybe make the holiday season a little less spendy. Certain families have certain traditions. So, if you've been doing something that works, feel free to chime in and share. It's not going to be your traditional, look at your income and look at your expenses and set aside, we're really going to be talking about tips and tricks that can maybe make the impact on your wallet a little less heavy. So again, feel free to interact and chime in as the webinar progresses. I did want to start by sharing this pretty funny comic or cartoon I saw. It really resonated with me. Admittedly, I didn't necessarily know what Gray Thursday was, but after doing some research on it, it made perfect sense. So they coined Gray Thursday as it usually was just Black Friday. The day after Thanksgiving is when it kicked off. However, many department stores have now started to open on Thanksgiving, which has kind of kicked off maybe the Black Friday shopping deals. I just recently made a purchase and I noticed that the sales are already happening. But this Gray Thursday really is, on Thanksgiving, and it's the department stores obviously wanting to take advantage of the shopping and open up on Thursday, which is then followed by, Black Friday, as we know, and that is mainly focused on a lot of the bigger retail and department stores. And then there's Small Business Saturday. You want to focus on a lot of the smaller local businesses on Saturday after Thanksgiving. And then there's Cyber Monday. Everything online goes on sale. And then comes Broke Tuesday after that 4-day stretch. Most of us may have little to no money in our bank account, or very large and inflated credit card bills that we are going to be facing. So I saw this cartoon. I thought it was pretty funny. And it really does kind of speak to what's starting next week with the holiday season and how it can affect our finances. So again, wanted to share this. Thought it was pretty clever and funny. There is such a thing as being too generous, especially during the holidays. A few figures here. In 2022, Americans budgeted on average $867 for presents alone. That doesn't account for maybe travel for some folks that are traveling, whether that's driving or flights, hotels. It doesn't account for maybe other holiday parties, whether you're going out to eat and whatnot. But strictly on presents alone, it's about $167 for the average American. That can be a tough bill to face in the new year. Especially with the cost of everything right now. $867 5 or 6 years ago, depending on your financial situation, may not have been that big of a bill to face. However, now it can be an impact. Our life recently just changed with my wife and I. We have a 1.5-year-old, so what $867 used to look like 2 or 3 years ago, it is completely different in our current structure in life right now. It can be really easy to go overboard on holiday shopping, but with some planning, with some budgeting, by getting creative, celebrating doesn't have to vacuum up all your cash or leave you maxed on your credit cards. So we're going to share some tips to ensure that you stay on budget for the new year, rather than getting wrapped up in the holiday spending. The first one really it's pretty cut and dry. We had, obviously there's the saying of a naughty or nice list, but kind of make your own quote unquote naughty or nice list. Santa obviously has to buy presents for the whole world. Thankfully, we don't have to. Sometimes it feels like we do, though, when we begin to craft our list of people that we're going to buy gifts for. It can feel like the whole world, especially for those that have big families or parents that are attending the presentation that have 4, 5, 6 kids. It can feel like you're shopping for the whole world. So one of the best things that you can do is begin to create a shopping list that identifies the people you want to purchase items for. If your shopping list includes more people than you're comfortable buying gifts for, start cutting it. Obviously understanding that, if your parents, you want to buy, in the presentation, you want to buy for your kids, maybe you want to buy for your spouse. And if that is, 4, 5, 7 people, whatever that might be, that's totally fine. But it's really when we start taking a look at the fringe lists. Maybe that's neighbors, maybe that's friends, maybe that's in-laws, maybe that's siblings if you're adults. That kind of fringe list is maybe, if you're really trying to watch your spending, which you maybe want to cut back on. Create that list, write everyone down from your nearest and dearest, again, to your in-laws, and maybe start making some cuts. And you don't need to cut them out entirely. Maybe there's something creative you can do for those fringe people instead of going out and buying a $50, $60, or $70 gift card, which of course adds up on your budget. Maybe bake them some cookies, or gift them a bottle of wine or something that's just a little less expensive than a traditional gift. It also eliminates the stress of having to go shopping, which may encourage you to overspend. Creating this list and really focusing on the people that you really want to buy for is going to ensure that you're focusing your money on those core people. It's going to allow you to still spread some holiday cheer if you bake cookies and things like that without maybe looking like Scrooge. It's, of course, it's nice to give people gifts. If it's not it's not a necessity, especially if it's overwhelming, or if you can't afford it. And I think that's the biggest thing we need to focus on. I began to prioritize that shift a few years ago. I would love to give gifts. That's kind of my personality. However, I recognize it's not worth the financial strain or burden that comes with having to gift, a lot of people gifts. So I think the biggest thing and the biggest takeaway from this list, or from this slide right here, is, again, create a list for who you want to buy for and maybe who you would like to buy for. If that list begins to add up to too much, start cutting it. I don't believe that people are going to get offended and they're going to end friendships if you didn't give them a Christmas gift. So really prioritize who you want to purchase for, and that'll really help make the shopping this holiday season easier on your finances. Next up, set a spending limit. If money wasn't a thing, we buy our loved ones anything they want or need. Buy your dad or your mom the new car that they're looking for the new luxury car they're looking for the holiday season. However, money is a factor. So it's ideal to work within a budget, which means having a limit for how much you want to spend on gifts. Give your credit card and your mind a holiday by limiting what you buy to what safely can come out of your bank account. Use this opportunity to create a budget or get your budget into fighting shape, and use it to decide how much money you can afford to spend realistically. Take a look at your discretionary money that you can set aside this holiday season and identify an amount that is comfortable for you. If you're going to put some purchases on a credit card, which is maybe highly, discouraged, make sure that you have a plan for how you can pay off that credit card bill when the time does come. The money that you can reasonably spend on gifts is money that isn't going to maybe your bills, or it's not neglecting other financial goals. If you have financial goals to end this new year by decreasing your debt, or paying for a vacation, or building up your savings account, don't sacrifice those financial goals to make purchases for the holiday season now. Stick to your goals and identify other avenues or other income to be able to pay for your gifts. If you want to have a little bit more to spend, this doesn't have to just be money left over at the end of the month. You can use funds that you would normally spend elsewhere. Like, for example, are you a frequent coffee purchaser? Are you a frequent going out to eat eater? Maybe sacrifice some of those habits, which, if you attended a previous presentation, the psychology of spending can sometimes be bad habits, the eating out, the morning coffee, the morning bagel, which really adds up. Sacrifice that for the next few weeks and use that extra money that you're going to have to make some purchases during the holiday season. But again, don't neglect your other spending goals. Don't run up your credit card just to purchase gifts for the holiday season. Really set a limit for yourself on what you're comfortable spending. Take it a step further and agree on a spending cap with your loved ones. Have a conversation with your spouse on what you joint financially are able to commit to spending on gifts this season. Those are conversations that I think my wife and I need to start having now on what are we going to spend on our daughter? What are we going to spend on our parents? Because again, we have financial goals that we want to meet, and we don't want to overextend ourselves because we feel the desire to have to, get a good lavish gift. So again, really being honest with how much you want to spend this year. Is it $400? Is it $500? Is it $700? Is it $1,000? Whatever works for you, just set a limit, or set a limit per person. Naturally, my wife and I are probably going to spend a little bit more on our daughter than we would maybe our niece and nephew or our parents. So really setting the expectations on those individuals or those specific people you're going to buy gifts for is going to help you be a little bit more prepared. And lastly, it goes without saying, but stick to that limit, stick to that budget. Don't go blowing through it and think, oh, well, it's fine. Because then again, you're going to find yourself in some financial trouble. Stick to that limit, hold yourself accountable, and make it competitive. Maybe try to go under the limit, but still have a good gift. And that way you leave yourself with maybe some more wiggle room or some extra funds. But again, just to kind of recap, set that limit, stick to it, and it's going to help. It's going to help make the holiday spending a little bit easier to absorb. So the last two that we talked about were really, money focused. The next few slides that we're going to dive into are kind of tips or maybe some non-traditional financial advice and really more creative ways that you can give gifts that maybe a little bit easier on the wallet. The first one up is giving non-traditional gifts. This is something I kind of tend to enjoy. Consider switching the focus from big, expensive items to smaller, maybe more meaningful gifts. This could be a hand knitted, blanket or mittens or, again, a festive bottle of wine, things that speak directly to, someone's personality and unique tastes. Homemade presents are a great way to save money while creating something memorable. These gifts may not work for everyone. I understand that, but they may be good for some on your list. Which can save you some money. Consider photos for grandparents or cookies for, again, your neighbors or other fringe friends. Those are great options that are affordable. Photos is a big one. My mom absolutely loves photos, especially family photos. If we gave her a gift of her and my daughter, her granddaughter, for Christmas, she would be ecstatic. If we did that for her birthday, for Mother's Day, whatever it might be, she's going to be ecstatic with that. My wife and I have already had conversations about a gift that we may give my father-in-law, and it's going to be a photo of him and my granddaughter at a baseball game. My daughter at a baseball game. He's a massive baseball fan, and that's something I think he's going to really enjoy. And it gets us away from having to buy a big ticketed electronics or something else. So it really does save us money, yet it's meaningful to everyone. How about, and this is something that's one of my favorites, for maybe some of your other friends or family, maybe it's just a visit from you or writing up a free night of babysitting. I can't tell you how happy I would be if someone, instead of just giving a gift to my wife and I, said, here's a coupon or an IOU for a free night of babysitting, and my wife and I can go out to dinner. Like, that to me is the best gift that I can probably receive. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people that are attending the presentation who have, people in their lives that are parents and maybe need a break, or a home cooked meal. You provide dinner for your parents or something creative like that. It's cheesy and it's corny, but at the end of the day, it provides quality time. And the bottom line, the whole theme of our presentation is it helps save money and it makes it easier for your bank account to get through the holidays. So these non-traditional gifts can be fun, and they can really help your finances through this holiday season. Next up, skip the adults. Some families choose to focus on gift giving for the children and skip those maybe over the age or those older than 18. In this day and age of instant gratification and online shopping and one-click shopping, many folks aren't waiting for the holidays to receive gifts. They kind of just buy what they want whenever they want. So potentially consider whether someone really needs a gift just because, that's what we've done all year. We have a lot of kids in our family, and it can really add up if you're purchasing for kids and adults and siblings. I have 5 siblings who all have kids. So it really adds up to purchase for all my nieces and nephews and my siblings. That's just not possible. So we've really begun to focus on buying gifts for the kids. And it's maybe something that you all can adopt in your family as well too. I'm really focusing on gifts for the kids. And us adults, we enjoy maybe more the quality time during the holidays, spending time with family. That's kind of the gift in and of itself, as cheesy as it may sound. And focus maybe more on the kids. And at the end of the day, when you're having to, skip giving gifts for adults, that does help your finances. If you're not buying gifts for parents and adult siblings, your bank account can take those purchases a little easier versus having to buy for everyone. To help pad the gift fund, some parents like to sell things their kids no longer need. Many people, and I feel like the kind of early fall, end of summer time is when I noticed a lot of garage sales in my neighborhood. And I have a feeling people were trying to declutter ahead of the holiday season and identify ways in which they can grab some extra cash. Again, those garage sales, post items online for sale, whether it's like a Facebook marketplace or OfferUp. Those kids' toys or kids' supplies that are no longer needed, or maybe it's stuff that you have lying around the house that's no longer needed, but is still in good condition. You don't want to just give it away, or you think that you can make some financial return on it. Maybe go to a local consignment shop. This is something that my family has begun to implement as well too. Again, I've mentioned that I have a daughter. She has a lot of toys that have come and gone. And a lot of other baby supplies. We just sold a chest strap that we used to carry her in. She's a little too old for it now, so we sold it and made some money off it. And these are the types of things that can help pad your gift fund. Whether you want to use it for your gift fund or use it for other financial goals that you have, that's fine. But again, consider, downsizing some of your items that you no longer use, cleaning out the garage. It serves a few different purposes, but it allows you to be able to, again, pad that bank account or have more money to be able to pay off some of the items that you're going to put on a credit card. And again, nowadays there's a ton of options to be able to do that. I mentioned Facebook Marketplace. I mentioned OfferUp. Other online applications are great ways to get rid of old items and make a little bit of a profit for it as well too. Obviously, practice safety when going through this process in terms of the exchange of finances and things like that. However, it's a really good option to be able to generate a little bit of extra cash. Draw names. This is a huge one that my family has begun to implement, especially with some of the adults, and it's fun. If you have a large family or a group of friends, put everyone's name in a hat and have each person draw one name. Then you can put your time, energy, and money into getting a nice, meaningful gift just for one person. My in-laws have a big family as well too. And instead of giving gifts for everyone at Thanksgiving, names are drawn. And then I can buy a gift for, my brother-in-law or my father-in-law, instead of having to buy gifts for everyone. And you put a spending cap on that. Everyone gets a gift. Everyone gets a gift that's around the same value. So no one's getting something that's, $200 when the limit was set at 75, and vice versa. No one's getting a gift that's $10 when the person next to you got a new, I don't know, pair of shoes or something that are $100. So this is really a good way to make sure that everyone gets a gift. It's easier on everyone's wallet because I guarantee you, you're not the only one that's thinking, man, a little bit of a financial break during the holidays would be nice. You're not the only one thinking that. There's others in your family, there's others in your friend circle that are thinking the same thing. So it really gets everyone on the same page about making sure you're not overspending, but everyone still gets a gift. You can exchange those gifts in front of everyone in the large group. That's really fun as well too. So definitely some things to consider. Starting the new year off right. It's possible to spend more during the holidays than you do the rest of the year. Gifts aside, We've talked a little bit about how you can end up going out to dinner with friends more often, or doing holiday activities with family. Spending more during the holidays isn't a terrible thing if you financially plan for it. Spending big chunks of money can feel stressful, however, especially if you don't have a surplus of funds. To help you recover from large holiday expenses, consider minimizing spending a few months after the holidays. Chris Davis is a financial advisor. He owns Davis Advisors. And it was a great quote when I was reading an article the other day regarding kind of spending during the holiday season. It says, if I know I'm going to be traveling or spending a lot over the holidays, I also to plan to have a lot of downtime in January and February when I know I won't be planning any big purchases. And so that's a good way to make it through the holiday season is, you know you're going to be spending maybe a little bit more than you'd like in November and December. But come January, February into March, maybe you reel in some of the spending that you've traditionally done to kind of help recover from the spending that happened over the course of Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. It's a really good way to kind of get your feet back under you after the new year and start the new year off right financially, versus staring at a empty bank account January 1st or staring at a credit card bill that's a little bit too high and you're worried about how you're going to be able to pay it down or pay it all off. So really it's a great way to strategize getting through the holiday season is potentially taking things a little bit easier come January, February, and March to help soften the blow of that spending. Lastly, as we begin to close out this webinar, choose what's important. Every year I feel like I ask myself the same question, and that's, did I get what I wanted out of the holiday season? And most of the time, it's wanting to spend time with family and wanting to have that quality time with the people that are most important to me. And so, consider switching your focus from big, expensive items, to smaller and more meaningful gifts. Homemade presents are a great way to save money while creating something memorable. Again, like we talked about, writing up a free night of babysitting card for family or friends for your family is something that's creative, it's fun, and it really has a big impact on the people that you gift to. So with that being said, I definitely want to open it up to any questions if some did come through. I also want to see if there's any folks out there that have any of their own comments or feedback or suggestions for how to survive this holiday season. One item that I know was kind of missed was really shopping for deals. We've always encouraged in the past, or we've always discouraged in the past, kind of deal hunting, especially if you don't have any plans to make a purchase. A lot of people buy something just because it's on sale, not necessarily needing it. But this time of year, obviously, folks are doing shopping with intentions to give gifts. And so try to find sales and deals that fit within your purchase. Comparing prices from one department store to the other is a great way to also cut down on some costs. So that kind of deal hunting, especially during the holiday season, can really help make the holidays a little bit easier when it comes to your finances. So, sorry. Any questions here or any other kind of final thoughts as we close out this webinar? I'll give folks a few minutes. So there is a good point here. Someone just chimed in and really emphasized on the local part of the holiday season. I won't share the person's name, but they really emphasized wanting to shop local versus using some of the bigger department brand, like the bigger stores and bigger departments and bigger corporations and the impact it can have for a local economy. And I think it's a great point. Yeah, I think you should, always consider trying to shop local. And we're blessed here in San Luis Obispo County with a lot of really great small business, small local stores especially in the downtown area and just all around some of the pocket cities here that we have. Shopping locals is really a great way to be able to have a little bit more of an impact locally, and the gifts are usually, with some great quality. They aren't mass produced; they're locally made, and so that's really a great point. Thanks for sharing that. So there's a question that came in here, and it asks about kind of the impact on your credit card, and kind of paying off, maybe the holiday season in a timely manner. So if you have a sudden large amount of purchases on your credit card, and maybe your credit card statement was at zero, and now you've purchased $1,000 or $1,500 worth of gifts. There's a few different things that could potentially be impacting your credit there. Number one, if you don't have the funds to pay off that bill in full, carrying a balance can negatively impact your credit. Also, depending on the limit of your credit card, that can have a negative impact on your score as well too. We've talked about in previous presentations how the amount of debt that you carry has a negative impact. So if you have a credit card limit of $3,000 and you spend $1,500 over this next holiday season, and don't have a way to pay that off, that's going to negatively impact your score, especially if you're carrying it over month to month. And it's going to cost you more because you're being charged interest, 25% on that balance that's going unpaid. So be very mindful of the game that you play with credit cards this holiday season, because it can negatively impact your credit if misused. So that's a great question. It's definitely something to think about and consider during this holiday season, that yes, it can impact your overall score, and be mindful of that. There's another question here that asks, what would be a good time frame to pay off holiday purchase in a credit card? Really that just kind of depends on your specific situation. The rule of thumb and the baseline is always, pay it off in full if you can. Of course, that there are a lot of situations and there are a lot of times when you can't pay off those purchases in full. And you should try to, create a plan in which, depending on the amount, you pay it down in 2 to 3 months. Good history of paying down balances over the course of 1 to 2 to 3 months can positively impact your score. It shows that you were able to, make a purchase, have some credit card balances, and pay them off. So it's a tough answer, because I think it's a tough thing to answer definitively, because the real answer is pay it off in full. Don't ever carry a balance. However, that's not always possible. And so as soon as you possibly can pay that balance down, do so, because it is just costing you money. If you carry a balance over the course of 2 or 3 months, depending on what the interest rate is and depending on what that balance is, it's going to cost you more money to pay it off. So that $1,500 spending spree during the holidays can quickly turn into $2,000 or $2,300 with interest. So there's no definitive answer about time frame. It's really as soon as you possibly can. But if it happens to be over the course of 2 to 3 months, that's not going to make or break your score. And you could be okay, again, depending on the amount that it may cost. But that's a good question. I think especially with a few questions that revolve around credit, I'll make sure that next year we address in this presentation kind of a credit slide and how the holidays can maybe impact your credit. Any other questions here, folks? Last call. So before we cut out here, I did just want to share, we have a great partnership with Green Path Financial Wellness. They really help with a lot of our financial materials and support. They're also a great resource if you're maybe struggling with some debt. They can help get you on a debt management plan. So if you're ever at all kind of in the branch or need more information, just reach out to GreenPath Financial Wellness or visit greenpath.com and take a look at some of their resources. Mention that you're a CESLOC member, and they can help you out. But GreenPath is really a great resource for financial wellness. Lastly, keep an eye out for upcoming webinars and things that we have. Again, we're going to go dark in December, but we will pick back up again in January. So if there are no other questions, thank you again, everybody, for joining us today. And please have a great and safe holiday season, however you do decide to celebrate. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy holidays, and we'll see you all in the new year. Thank you for being such a great audience this year. Have a good day, everybody. Thank you.